Welcome to the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper, a trauma-informed therapist, life coach and disruptor of wellness norms based in Brighton, UK. This isn't another nice-to-have wellness podcast. Instead, this podcast seeks to redefine what it means to be well in today's world. Here, we challenge the status quo, seek to reunite wellness with social justice and improve accessibility, diversity and inclusivity within wellness and beyond. As a listener, you are not here to passively consume. Instead, you are an ambassador for real, embodied, societal and systemic change in the world. As your host, I stand for radical self-inquiry and being able to have those confronting but necessary conversations so that we can remember our collective humanity at this time. We're here for the revolution and you've got a front row seat. Well, it's amazing to have you on this morning, Misan. I mean, I always feel a little bit, there's a certain ickiness thanking one another for our work at this time. I always find it a little bit kind of a strange thing to say, but, you know, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you've shared over the past 20 months. I know that for me personally, for so many people I know, you've been a real beacon of light at this time. So thank you. And thanks for your time today.
Thanks. It's always bittersweet, right? Because when people say that to me, it means that they can't find many other voices that are close or thereabout to what I'm doing, which is really weird because I don't think I am some radical. You know, I will say to my missus that I'm basically talking about the basics of human decency, and that has become somewhat a lonely place to be with my profile, which is just let that sink in. So thank you, but it is odd that you know, I'm not saying anything that we shouldn't all be saying, right?
Totally, absolutely. I mean, I love how you always hold on to this expression of moral clarity at this time. Really, just the very basic clarity between right and wrong at this time.
That should be our religion, right? I think if we raised our kids and chose our friends and how we moved in our personal and professional lives with more clarity being our North Star, we would be in a different world. And, you know, the folly of man is that we are imperfect, right? But I think if we keep leaning into, no, that's wrong, and that's better, and go on the journey of being better, I think we'd be in a really, really different place. Sadly, we've built a extractive capitalist system that is built on top of a racist, white supremacist colonial system. So they're stacked. And now, on top of that, the oligarchy are building, I'm not sure what the word is. You know, these guys believe in some hyper-racist, eugenic, scientific gobbledygook that tells them that they are the finer race, and it gets very strange. So the good thing is that regular people like myself and yourself have all found each other, and we don't need to question that. The most beautiful thing about humanity is the fact that we can simply bathe in love and compassion and in listening to people that have different lived experiences than us, and eating their food, hearing their laughter, learning about their stories, some of them handed down generation after generation. And that adds to the great, you know, tapestry of this thing called life. Instead of being told by our news media that we should hate these people, or hate someone that loves differently, or hate someone who was born into a body that was a prison for them. You know, I have trans friends, and if anyone actually has trans friends and you speak to them about their stories growing up, there are few stories more traumatic than being born into a body that doesn't feel like it's yours. People don't really fully understand that. And to have that group of people be attacked in the way they have is completely unacceptable to me. But that's, again, I go back to the basics, right? So thank you. We're building community. I mean, how did you come across Meet?
I have no idea. I can't remember. I mean, goodness, it feels so long ago now. Probably just, it must have been the early protest photography for the pro-Palestine marches. It must have just been the, how many times have your pictures been shared on the internet over the past 20 months? And, I can't believe that I didn't find you during Black Lives Matter. I mean, what was I doing? I don't know. So, I found you obviously when I was meant to find you, but I can't remember. Instagram somewhere.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing because, people talk about the worst of the internet, and believe me, there's a lot wrong with the internet. But the other side of it is that you can find a new tribe of people that you feel like you really know them, right? That there have been people that I've met and hugged in protests, and I mean they see me as family. It's super. And that is based on a moral journey, right? Where they're like, this guy or this woman is really fighting the same fight as I am, and that makes me feel very safe around them.
Yes.
And I just wish we had one leader in our political class that we could rally around like that. And before you ask, I'm not getting into politics. The amount of people that ask me about politics, I promised my wife that I just couldn't do it.
What is it? What's that sentence? Absolute power corrupts.
It is a dirty bath.
Outside of politics, Misan. No, I hear so much what you're saying. And, I make jokes about my internet friends who I spend so much time hanging out with online and WhatsApp, on Instagram, and occasionally get to see in real life. But I hear you with that piece around trust and safety, because I was speaking to Casper about this the other night, my husband, that people who care so deeply and so radically for people that they have never met, that they will never meet, tens of thousands of miles away, God, those people would be there with pails of water if my house was on fire,
Yeah. And many of them are neurodiverse. I generally beginning to think, the groups of people that just can't ignore this, many of them probably are on some kind of spectrum, I believe. Because when you do meet people that are just jolly, planning their next holiday and everything is hunky-dory, and you're just like, how? How is this possible? And then you see this moral army of sensitive empaths, and I think there is, not everyone goes on a journey, but I think people that are not neurotypical can be hypersensitive to injustice. And I'm certainly not remotely neurotypical. And I've always really struggled with anything that I feel is wrong. I'm like, no, that's wrong. And as I got bigger and an adult, and it never left me. Right. Also people that know trauma. So people that have had abusive childhoods, that have had, that know what it is to be hurt. They tend to be very, very keen to fight for those that are being hurt. So, we all recognize our wounds, and in many ways, we are healing ourselves by doing our best to heal others.
Yeah. It reminds me of, just released on my podcast today, and I tagged you in it yesterday. You reshared it. My interview with Asma Shuaik, who's one of the women in a Al Jazeera documentary, My Hijab, My Choice. It follows the lives of 5 British Muslim women. And Asma went viral on the internet because there was a man on the tube being abusive towards a Jewish father and his son. And she stepped in and intervened. It went viral on the internet. And I asked her about it, and I said, was there any kind of conflict in your head of going in or stepping in? Not. She was like, no, it's just innate, because I know what it's like, because I've faced that countless times. So for me, it's just not even a choice. I just see something like that and I just step in. And I suppose what I hear in that is that the more privileges or comfort that we have experienced within our own lifetime perhaps sometimes the most blind we are to the discrimination and the community.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I think a lot of I did a video about 6 months ago about some of my boarding school friends who have been silent throughout, and they're properly privileged, and a whole bunch of them, I think it was near December time, they all did posts about the fox hunting ban, and I was just like, you what? You know, some of them were at the protests. I just opened my phone, and there was like, yeah, that's my mate, and they were all screaming about the fox hunting ban, and I was like, okay, this is properly dystopian, you know, and to see the passion they had for that over and above children having their limbs removed without any pain relief is all you need to see, really. And then on your story about stepping in to a group of Jewish people getting abused, I've seen that time and again, both from Muslim women and men, but also from Jewish people. You know, I've always said, you know, in my experience, some of the most unapologetic sort of warriors to try and fix this mess are Jewish people. You know, I'm lucky enough to know activists both in North America, in Israel, and in the UK, all Jewish, that are, you know, I've shed many tears with them. I've had some arguments with some of them, but most of them are really clear on not just the crime of what's happening to the human beings in Gaza, but also to the really original sin of apartheid and settler colonialism, which, you know, I think is not discussed enough in relation to this issue. You know, the idea that your children go through checkpoint after checkpoint just to go to school. Most of them can't travel through Ben Gurion Airport. They have to go through Jordan and through other ways. It can go on all day. I mean, all of these things is just tick, 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 tick. And I was a child whose life was changed forever by seeing apartheid for what it was in South Africa. And this is even more sophisticated. I mean, it's an apartheid run by drones and algorithms and, of course, violence. But it's really, really, sounds like I'm celebrating it. I'm not celebrating it, but it's really well done. And of course, Louis Theroux barely had to say anything in the Settlers documentary because you just put the microphone near these people and they said what they needed to say. And the rest, as they say, is history. But the original sin of apartheid is someone as a black man, as someone who is Nigerian British, was born into a situation where my parents were both born into an occupied Nigeria. The British are very good at using fancy words like Commonwealth and former British colony, but it was an occupied country, Nigeria, just like every other British colony. It was occupied by the British. I don't know what else to say. That's what it was. You know, Nigeria was named by Florence Lugard. One lady was able to name the country. I mean, talk about power and white supremacy. It's extraordinary. So when you grow up knowing that, right? And my uncle, Leslie Harriman, was the head of the anti-apartheid unit at the UN. Yeah, so it's in my blood. It's in how, you know, my household growing up. There's no way I can look at what's happening in the West Bank and just say, oh yeah, that's normal. That's the only democracy in the Middle East when, as I say, they can't even drive down the same roads. So it's really important for people to go on a journey, and a lot of my Jewish friends are the ones that have educated me on this, actually. You know, I have friends that are ex-IDF soldiers that are taking me on a journey to understand how they were educated, how they were militarized, how they were made to not see the humanity of their Arab neighbors. And it's just really, and I try and, in my own cadence and in the language that I use on my platform, to lead people down to that place without it being rage bait, right? Because what one needs to help people go on a journey, not just scream into the ether. And I think even in the pro-Palestine kind of movement, there are people that are, and I understand, they're unforgiving, they're pissed, right? Because they've just seen too much bloodshed. But that's not my job. My job is to try and build bridges, right? And you know, hopefully I am somewhat trying, you know, doing that. It's tough though. There are days where I seriously police my words, and I tend not to share any of the most awful stuff. Not that I don't want to see it. I have to see it to understand what's really going on. But, you know, for many reasons, I rather use my words rather than images of, you know, charred babies or babies rotting in an incubator. I think I use my words. Also, the way Meta works is that if you share too many of those, they just deplatform you anyway. And there's so many people I know who've had their whole everything taken away because they've been so hurt, and they're like, look at this, and of course Meta's like, you're out, you know, and then they don't have a platform. So you have to really, it's not enough to say this is wrong, look at this. You have to recognize the world you live in. I did a video about this the other day, and I said it's like running a marathon on eggshells. And police yourself, because that's how you will be most effective in the current world that we have to navigate through. And I hate to say that, it is a fact. Mm.
Before we go on, I'd so appreciate you to hit follow or subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, click those 3 little dots next to settings to rate the show. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review, or take a moment to explore how you can rate or review on the platform that you're listening or watching. This makes a difference. I truly believe we need to have more of these conversations to shake up the status quo. We'll beat the algorithm together with your clicks and shares. Now back to the episode. I saw you did a video the other day talking about, in terms of the way that you choose to share and articulate, I think one of the things that I find so amazing about the way that you do articulate is that there is always so much composure. Doesn't mean that there's not the simmering rage and grief underneath, which I fully appreciate that there is. But this element of composure and responding rather than reacting. And you know, even in the Channel 4 interview that I saw, that there were so many times which I would have, you know, I was incensed, you know, at the way that the question was asked or something like that. But I watched you and the way that you responded, and I was like, wow, it's really something, the way that you do communicate. And I'm just curious to ask, you know, how do you navigate the grief and the rage?
I mean, I have broken down in a few videos, the ones where I've actually burst into tears whilst, so I do this thing with Save the Children where sometimes they get testimony from people in Gaza. And a couple of times I've tried to read it and I was like, you know, I just got to keep the camera rolling because I'm going to cry every time. So those get me. And especially when it's children's testimony, I'm not very good at dealing with that. But in general, I realize the work is for my voice, just like my camera, to be the sword and shield for these people. And it's the sword because it cuts through a lot of the noise that is countering the truth of this medieval siege, right? But also it's a shield because hopefully I can try and give them some kind of grace in humanizing their stories. I've just, for security reasons, it couldn't be announced, but I went to Cairo after the ceasefire, the brief ceasefire. It was as close as I could get to the children of Gaza. And I taught them a photography course. And it's coming out soon, all of that. And I spent time with their parents, with them. And for me, it was really important because I can't heal their bodies, right? There are lots of good people that are going to do that. But I can really help try and heal their minds. And I can really help try and remind them that they deserve to be children. And the psychosocial care is rarely spoken about because the horrors are just ongoing. But as soon as I knew there was a group of children that were out and I could get to them, I went with Save the Children on a plane, and we spent time with them that, I'll never forget, so there'll be more of that. I don't know when this is coming out, but it's in a few weeks, I think, people will see that. So it was really, above and beyond how I speak and how I present myself, I needed to be with these kids as well, and look them in the eye and let them know that, this man from a faraway place loves them and knows and wants them to understand that they deserve everything that my children have. So yeah, I mean, I deal with it, I lock myself in the toilet some days, to make sure my kids don't see me cry. And my kids are sensitive, and some people say they should see you cry, but I can't have them see me cry every day, because I literally am in tears at some point every single day. But I think that's what makes us human. If you are I've said this in a video, if you're walking around in this wounded world and your soul doesn't leak, then that's more problematic, right? I mean, you should be a serial killer if you're super chilled about all of this. There's something wrong with you. And the fact that we're affected in the way that we are, well, if anything, that means that our emotional engine is alive and well, and we are just human, and that's okay.
Mm. How do you navigate everything that is happening with your kids? Are they aware of
they've gone through a process with me, which is great. Obviously with my visibility it's tricky, but they also know, because I go on trips with Save the Children, right? So I've been to Somaliland, Nigeria, and now Cairo whilst the kids have been around, and I explain every time that I'm going to help other kids. They did a bake sale themselves for their school and the proceeds, I think they raised 100 and something quid for Save the Children. And of course I work closely with Choose Love. They all have their Choose Love t-shirts, and they're like, this is to help kids like Daddy does. So I mean, I can't obviously talk to them about settler colonialism and white supremacy and everything else, but they're going to have a lot of that in the household, clearly, because of who their dad is. So when the time's right, they're only 5 and 7, but they understand that we have more than most, and because of that, we must help children. And I've curated specific books that talk about everything from, refugees, migrant crisis, kids that need help, kids that don't always have access to clothes and education, so they read about that as well. So yeah, I'm preparing them as best I can.
Something that I've heard you say on another podcast, and I found this really poignant, was we are finding out who we really are, and we are reintroducing ourselves and to the rest of the world in this time. I was curious to ask who you have found yourself to be, and how has that reintroducing process been for you?
Well, we don't all have time machines, right? And if you do, let me know. But I think a lot of us look back, in hindsight, on the choices we made, the children that we were, that become the adults that we are now. And I definitely had some pretty tricky moments as a kid, that I didn't have the protection and duty of care that some people that certainly should have been looking out for me weren't. And I think that's a big part of why I am how I am, because I know what it means to feel like the world doesn't want or is listening to you. And I think that little boy lives within this man, right? So I am a man-child in many ways. And I remember my wife, Camilla, when we were in the earlier days, she looked me in the eyes and she said that there's a sadness in your eyes. And no one that I'd ever dated had said that to me before, because I'd been able to mask it and charm my way through it all. I think trauma response works that way. But she saw it clearly, and she's like, I love you, but there's a sadness in your eyes. And I think when you have a partner that really sees you like that, it allows you to drop all the BS and recognize that you are just as scared and confused and figuring out what this thing called life is. And that allowed me, that was all during the time when I started taking pictures. And I think to be in your 40s and to have at least started doing the work of building yourself back up brick by brick, regardless of what was taken from you as in your formative years, has allowed me to be really sure of the type of universe I want to exist in. And if it isn't around now, I'm going to fucking build it. Right? With my voice and with my art and with how I raise my kids and how I love my extraordinary wife. And, possibly that is why people respond to, because, my videos, like, I just pull out this thing. I never think of what I'm going to say. Right? There's no script and I just speak. Right? There's no perfect lighting. There's none of that with me. And I think also the world is tired of this influencer culture we had probably the last 5 years where it was just perfection, perceived perfection. These people seem to have the perfect marriages. The houses were perfect. They go on perfect holidays. The children were perfect. They can walk on water. And everyone watching, life is falling apart, right? It doesn't make any sense. So I think when they see me, hopefully there's a sense of honesty and vulnerability that although I have been seemingly successful in quite a few things that I've done in my life, I'm still anxious and vulnerable. I still struggle with self-doubt, self-love, anxiety, just like anyone else. Maybe that's what people recognize to be something that they can see themselves in. So maybe that's, I don't know. People ask me, why do you think, people have followed you in the way that they have. And I think maybe that's just, vulnerability and honesty. It's a rare thing, unfortunately, in terms of influential folks. But I don't know how to do it any other way.
As somebody who does use their platform for this, for advocating, for speaking out, how do you navigate the challenge around people who choose to not use their platforms? And, how do you navigate celebrity culture at this time when there is just so much collective silence and apathy amongst celebrity culture or people with big platforms?
Yeah. I'm disappointed, and sometimes I'm really pissed off with them. But again, I have to breathe and look at the world that we have, and whether or not you like celebrity culture, when the land grab of the social media real estate happened, they got most of the land. Right? So whether we like it or not, the top 10 most followed people on TikTok, Instagram, wherever, Facebook, are celebrities. They are not doctors or professors or philosophers or healers, unfortunately, or poets. Half of them are from one family, the Kardashians, right? And then you've got a whole bunch of footballers. Beyonce maybe in there, Taylor Swift definitely in there, right? And it's like 4 billion people, I think, just the top 10. And that's more power. Many of them have more followers in nation states. So that's not something I'm going to ignore because they irritate me. So I'm just going to, and I know many of them, so I'm just going to keep bugging them. Some of them have blocked me. I don't care. And I'm like, just say something. Just say something. I will write it for you. Collab post for me. Let's do it. And until someone builds a new platform where there's a new land grab and people like you and me have these gazillion billion followers, the attention economics of the celebrities of today, although it's utterly vacuous, is something I'm not going to say is we should just ignore. Because if Taylor Swift and Beyonce woke up tomorrow and said, free Congo, free Palestine, free Sudan, Yemen, all of that, it would be huge, right? If they did call to actions to just raise money for the babies in Congo and Gaza, there's no humanitarian agency that can compete with that. Oh, that's the dynamic of the social media land grab that they have, right? And what's exciting is there are new singers and actors, the next generation. Like the Bridgerton lot are great. You look at most of the young ladies that are stars of Bridgerton, they've all been very vocal. They're all very political. Nicola, India, amazing human beings. So they're just different, and they're becoming the next superstars. So look, if Taylor and Beyonce and the Kardashians want to stay silent and keep making their money and merching and touring, that's their prerogative. But there is a new generation coming that won't be so silent. So yes, I work with celebrity culture, but I'm utterly myself with them. So I don't reduce myself. So look, if they're messing with me or having a shoot would be, I'm straight up political always. Like I am an activist. So when people say, "Oh, nice to meet you. What's your name? What do you do?" I'm an activist. That's what I say, that's straight up, that happens to take pictures and make movies and chair organizations, but I'm an activist. That's what I do. Mm-hmm. Day in, day out.
Mm. Do you find that you are buoyed, let's say, by the next generation coming through? I mean, I saw a video that you did the other day talking about when you went to the court and the group of lawyers who are taking the government to court right now, and you were talking about there being a lot of Irish lawyers, there being a lot of young women lawyers. Yeah. There was a lot of animation and excitement there. Do you feel kind of buoyed by the next generation?
Yeah, they're not fucking around. They are well prepared, many of them well resourced as well. Utter moral clarity through the lens of the law, which is, we can march all we like. We can post all we like on Instagram and record all these podcasts, but impunity survives in lawlessness. And their weapon is the law. So I'm really excited by this next generation that are, there are some men, but there are many women. They're people from all walks of life, but I saw a lot of Irish women there as well. And this isn't the raw cause of justice. This isn't some sort of Reddit forum. This is a real deal. And they're young and have the health and energy to do this for the next 40 years. They are not going to let go of this. So every genocidal statement that's being made by all sorts of people, there are groups that are taking every single receipt, whether it's an Instagram post, a statement in an interview, on a podium, all of it. Also what was not said as well, right? So it's going to be very, very interesting. And I think we think because so little has been done that people aren't preparing for justice and the wheels of justice to turn. However slowly, these folks are pushing those wheels.
Yeah. I was listening to there was a protest in Brighton a couple of weeks ago, actually the day after the National March in London. And there was someone speaking who has created something called the Accountability Archives. Don't know if you've come across it.
No. Right, notes down.
Literally taking account. Anyone can add to it. But you can add anything that any politician or journalist or anyone has said, you can actually add something to the archive, and it is taking actual receipts of what people have said. I mean, I saw that video of Kemi Banadoc the other day, and I saw Jen comment on it. I saw you comment on it. The video saying, "Oh yeah, you should do more of these because we are taking receipts on this one."
Yeah, let it be the ledger of hate. And impunity that she keeps speaking. Let her just keep doing it, and every single word that she says will be part of, how at the very least she will be remembered and her legacy, and then we'll see what else, what other, testimony in regards to her words that the legal folk will have a look at that as well. Let them speak. I'd rather they speak, and own it with their chests, as they say. Let her do that.
Totally. And I mean, the media have played also such a, in one respect, they've played such a big role, in another playing absolutely no role at all. But the media coverage, the small amounts of coverage that there have been about the protests, the national protests happening in London, over the last 20 months, they're often called hate marches, and that is the narrative that is put out there. I'm curious, you must have been to countless protests, countless demos, countless marches, across Black Lives Matter, across Palestine and other things too. What's been your experience of these protests?
I mean, you're bathing in humanity, right? I've been on protests in 3 continents, and some of them have got a little bit rough. But if you're talking about the UK ones, I mean, obviously the Farage, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, whatever his name is, Tommy
Robinson, is that his name?
Yeah, I've also been to those, and I've been, spat at, and all sorts of things. And I went. Some of my friends said I didn't shoot enough pro-Israel marches, so I remember one of the first ones I went to there, I was spat at by someone that recognized me, and they said I was a rape apologist. And I was just like, extraordinary, I mean, I hadn't been there for 5 minutes. This was early on, but I was like, wow. So yes, sometimes you get that energy, but in terms of the Palestine protests, it's the safest place you can be in London, and it's a great example of what this is, a blueprint of what this nation can be. Every creed of person, every religion, every age group, from kind of breastfeeding kids all the way down to people that are damn near 100 years old that are hobbling down the streets of London. People in wheelchairs and many other disabilities are there as well. I love this image I took of this visually impaired man with his walking stick, and he was still doing the thing, and I was like, fuck, this is Nirvana. This is it. This is it. This is us at our best. And then to have our politicians call this Islamist hate march is just, I hate to keep bringing up that word white supremacy, but it's so unbelievably racist. And if you consider how big the Jewish bloc is, that is always there, it's extraordinary that our press have allowed this narrative to go to the place that it has. And I remember watching early on in CNN, and I kind of, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, I'd always watched them, for US News, and post October 7th, I was like, whoa, I was really shocked, especially Dana Bash, at just how strong her statements were about the students in particular. And she's very good at choosing her words, but nobody can watch how she's reported on this. And I would say, someone should get some AI just to scan every statement she's made about anti-Semitism, which is important. Anti-Semitism must be covered because it is on the rise, but it must be covered correctly. And I don't know if there's any statement on the anti-Muslim hate that is also majorly on the rise, or a single story by her on the children. Forget, if you can't humanize the mothers and fathers, the children that are literally being eaten by dogs. And I'm like, well, that's not journalism. If you've spent 18 months only comfortable, speaking about one specific thing, and it's part of a story that has children that are getting perfect sniper shots through the heart and head, and you somehow can't bring yourself, when you have one of America's biggest news platforms, to say that as well. I'm not saying don't talk about anti-Semitism. I'm saying there are children being eaten by dogs. I repeat, there are children being eaten by dogs. Snipers are shooting them in the head and heart from behind. They're rotting in incubators. They're being pulled out of rubble and immediately having suicidal thoughts because everything they've ever known is dust. And you've been silent about that. The BBC has an even higher bar of concern for me because it is still the world's biggest news organization by reach. And it's unique because it's financed by us. And as I've said, there's a statue of George Orwell outside the BBC headquarters talking about the importance of telling the truth, telling the people what they may not want to hear. And the reductive language that has been used in the last 18 months by the BBC is, I don't know whether it will ever recover. I mean, Owen Jones had 15 whistleblowers come to him for the piece that he wrote for Dropsite News, which is brilliant journalism, really. You must read it if you haven't. But I know that there are hundreds now they may not be whistleblowers, but there are hundreds of BBC staff that are literally losing their minds. That dam is going to crack open. And I'll be intrigued what will happen with that. As you know, Bender Pierre's film about medics hasn't been released.
Yeah.
And people are like, what's going on there?
They won't even release that to someone else, will they?
Well, let's see. I mean, this is where we, the people, are the change that we want to see. So we just got to keep shouting. Yeah. And that film's going to be seen. We're going to make sure of it. It's going to be seen,
Yeah. I think for me, Misan, I think many months ago you made this video which was talking about the, complexity of debating what is happening with other people. And for you, it always just comes down to, time and time again, the children, always the children. And I feel like that is that moral clarity piece, right? And, just going back to sorry, you're going to say something.
Well, I mean, I grew up in a big part of my 20s in North London. So many of my friends are Jewish. Many of them live in Israel. And, we've had difficult conversations. Some of us stopped talking. Some of us are talking again now. But one of the overriding things I've said is that if there were Jewish babies, Israeli babies, having their limbs amputated, or being shot in the head, I would scream for them, as I did for the hostages. Every week I was posting about Kafir Bibas, may he rest in peace. And no one, this is the thing about me, I have moral clarity, I don't care what you say to me about the need for resistance. Children are out of the question. So the moment Hamas took those children, whether they had to, it doesn't matter, they're children. It is out for me. It's just, I am a pacifist, and particularly with children, there's just you can't, you're never going to, persuade me that is just war or conflict. And, if you become the very monster that you're afraid of, that is how the cycle of violence continues. Right? So for me, it's always, that's probably why I'm an ambassador for Save the Children, right? It's, and what's unique about Gaza, it is the size of a postage stamp, right? Where half of the human beings are children, many of them under 13. None of them voted for Hamas. They weren't even alive during the last elections. They weren't born. And they are suffering the most out of all of this. And that's just a crime against humanity. And if you have a friend, Jewish or otherwise, that looks you in the eye and tries to debate the fact that some of them are newborns, don't have a right to at least survive? If anyone says that to you, Christian, Sikh, doesn't matter where they're from, then there is a real problem with them, not you. I don't know of a society that doesn't see children as our most sacred and celestial. And if anyone says, but, maybe there is a situation where 2,000-pound bombs should be dropped on children, I mean, let them own that. They can own that. You do you. I'm sorry, you can't debate that. There's lots of things you can debate, but a place that has 1 million children that is tiny, that weapons that many of us have never seen before because they're so advanced, that there's no working hospitals, there's no education, there's no airport, land, sea, and air is a complete siege. No, this isn't the way you build peace. It doesn't make your community any safer. In Nigeria, we have something called Boko Haram, where many of the kids were bombed and, killed or maimed. Many of the ones that survived have become something much worse, which is the other thing, right? What is the next generation of orphaned boys going to be when they become men? And the only thing they have known has been this abomination of primal rage and violence. It hasn't been a conversation. It hasn't been, how can we walk together? How can we see our own humanity? Which is why a lot of my friends in the Jewish activist groups that I spend time with are saying that we just have to speak to each other now. Yeah. Or otherwise what's coming in the future is unimaginable.
Yeah. I hear that deeply. I mean, me with my trauma therapy training, I look at this and I'm like, the kids that have survived this, what is next for them? That they have seen unimaginable horrors daily, day in, day out. It's unimaginable. And I think, what is next for humanity? Who knows?
And it's reduced. It's consistently reduced. I've never seen a BBC piece talking about how some kids hear the drone noises all the time. So they've left. They're not even anywhere near Gaza, but they have them in their heads day and night. There hasn't really been a piece on the insomnia these kids have, because their nightmares, their sleep is a scarier place than them being awake. I mean, the crime committed to these children is something that I don't think we've ever seen before. Not of this scale, not of this focus and this barbarity. So, the psychosocial care that they need is going to be for a lifetime. And we need to have many nation states have the resources and ability to help these kids. Otherwise, I don't know what the future holds.
With all this and this continual swimming upstream, what gives you hope at this time?
You could be vibing and having an Aperol Spritz in Soho House. I'm serious, and talking about something utterly unimportant to the existence of humanity. Yet, you have become who you were always supposed to be. And there are millions of people like you, right? And that's what gives me hope. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, as you.
Thank you. I think my answer would be the same. I hear you deeply on that. And I think that for any of us who have gone to these supposed hate marches that are actually, as you said, just bathing in humanity, I think that for me, it's almost like it restores a little bit of my soul each time. And, you were talking about the Jewish bloc at the protests, and God, it is so humbling to see, come rain, come shine, come hot, come cold. They're there standing on bus shelters with signs. They're there speaking to people.
I photographed Stephen Kaposh.
Yeah, I saw.
I've got to know him a little bit, and his daughter Andrea, and I've met other members of his family. And, he was, I think, 7 during the Holocaust in Hungary. The very best of all of us, and there are many Jewish men and women and families that are also, because, they've had their faith be drawn into this thing, because it's not Judaism. This is not Judaism. It is not. From my experience with people like them, the central pillar of Judaism is altruism, is caring for others. So I will fight anyone that even tries to draw this ethno-genocidal state of mind that is Zionism to Judaism. They're two very different things.
The central part to any faith. I mean, I saw this. There was this beautiful moment at the last protest where we walked across Westminster Bridge, and we were passing the rabbis, you know, all generations, and there were dozens of them this time. And in front of me, I was, 20 meters away from them, and one of them stepped forward and was shaking the hand of a woman wearing a hijab. And they were having a conversation between them. And I was like, this is what this is. You know, this is people, as you said at the beginning of this conversation, people of all faiths, all backgrounds, all ages coming together. And, we stopped off to get some water and stuff at Tesco's, and past us went the people with banners of BIPOC for Palestine, queers for Palestine, doctors for Palestine.
It's just incredible.
Whoever you are, there's a group for you.
I'm so honored to be able to photograph them in the way that I have done, because it's proof. Because if you read our papers, you think it's AI, or that we've just fabricated this, right? And the thing about my images is that long after you and I have left this mortal coil, there will be proof. There will be a testament of what we tried to do during this time. Make no mistake, I recognize that, sometimes people take pictures for vibes. That's not what I'm doing. I know the importance of bearing witness. And because I'm not commissioned by a newspaper, no editor can just use my images for some insidious line of viewpoint that is the untruth. And because I self-publish in the way that I do, millions, if not billions of people at this point get to decide how they feel when they see my images. I don't want you to just look at my images. I want you to feel them. I believe people feel my images rather than see them, right? And that you can't manipulate. I can't force you to feel whatever you feel when you look at a picture that I've just observed on the streets of London. And that's the power of it all, and also the resistance of it all. These images are a serious act of resistance for the reasons I've just described.
I wanted to ask you, about 6 months ago, you posted this very powerful video, which has been very alive in our household over the last 6 months, which was around this topic of where are the men? And you said it from the context of, now with the photography that you've been doing over the years, you get, scores of people coming up to you to thank you for your work, to introduce themselves. And the majority of them are women. There was this question for you of where are the men? Where are the men within social justice? Where are the men within activism? And I know that there are some, but the ratio is obviously not equal. So I would love for you to bring that into the conversation, speak to that. And also curious whether you feel like there is any form of a shift since you made that video or not.
It's interesting, I'm just bloody proud of women. Christ almighty. I mean, if men are iOS, 7, you guys are, the update that hasn't even been released by Apple. I mean, you're well beyond and anything in your ability to take on big issues, process them, and decide what to do with them. I think many men can take on the big issues, then they struggle to process it, and then they have no idea what to do with it. And it leads back to toxic patriarchy, how we in many aspects of how we're raised, we're supposed to be the masters of the universe to have all the answers, when of course we're just scared little people just like everyone else. And it's so important that there are more men that lead with vulnerability, that allow other men to see that it's okay to just be their true selves. And it's funny that the term gentleman, gentle man, and I wish there were more gentle men. Right? I am a gentle soul. I'm a big old boy, but I'm a gentle soul. And that's okay. I'm not looking to be in the next UFC fight. I cry listening to songs and reading poetry, and that's okay. Right? So, that needs to be presented into the zeitgeist, right? In a way that unfortunately it hasn't in many cultures and societies. But there is a deeper thing in just how men and women are. I was looking into something for a film project I'm working on mass shootings in America, and almost all the mass shootings over the last 100 years have been by men. Now, what's interesting about that is that women get abused. Women have crazy parents that give them guns for their 15th birthday. Tick, tick, tick. They're women that have exactly the same experiences as these men. But there is something that stops a woman from taking an automatic rifle, going into a school and killing 40 people. I'm not saying women are perfect, but there is a clear difference in data of how few women have done that. And then if you look even further into who's on death row, the women that are on death row are all, no, not all, but many of them on very specific kind of crimes of passion or insurance crimes, all awful. I mean, they're terrible things, but they are, poisoning or killing their husband for life insurance and things like that. So terrible things, but they're very few that have killed 40 or 50 people. Which is why I can't remember Eileen, the one of the few American, women serial killers. Charlize Theron did that movie Monster, because it was so rare to have a woman, do such awful things. So I think the point I'm making is that I think we need to make sure that we have more women in the rooms where the levers of power are, because I do wonder how many women in the worst that has happened in the world, how many women were in those rooms when the decisions were made, right? That's really, really important to me. And hopefully you think about the journey your husband Casper has been on, my voice, the thousands of beautiful men that I've met throughout this journey of protest and resistance and civil rights, but it's nowhere near where we need to get to. Like I always shoot the Women's March, and I'm like, this is such an ironic, weird march because it's full of women when it's the men that are hurting them. I'm like, you guys, you're not the problem. You're marching, but you really are not the problem. The problem are the dudes that aren't here, right? We should have a Women's March that should have 90% men. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Can you
Misan, can
imagine
you make that
that?
happen, please?
I can try. Unfortunately, I'm not a Kardashian, but I'm doing what I can with the platform that I have.
Yeah. Amazing. And I suppose that is the complexity that we have, isn't it? Well, amidst all of the complexity that we have, but as you said in the video, it's the men that sit with the closest proximity to the levers of power. So that is something that needs to drastically change.
Yeah. You look at and also the women that become, the other thing is that when women, the structures that allow women to thrive make them not become, have the sensibilities that make women so useful. So, there's no point in having more women in the room if by the time they get in the room, they have become a Theresa May or they've become a Margaret Thatcher, right? Because their politics they've been forced to become part of the same machine, right? I think we've had a few women in Iceland and Finland that have just been exactly what I'm talking about, where they have that sensibility, the inbuilt empathy, the ability to be critical thinkers that I see and love in so many of the comrades, the women that I've met across many movements. But the system needs to be reset to make you be able to get to the top and not lose yourself and become something else. Just like brown and black people are getting to the top. But look at the state of them when they're there. I mean, look at Kemi or Rishi or
Priti Patel,
Kwasi or Priti. I mean, what go and find a group of South Asians or West African people and tell me whether Kwasi Kwarteng speaks to them. You could go and find me them. So what is the point of reaching the pinnacle of success and power when you are at the peak? You've become the very thing that has dehumanized and reduced you to a place where you are becoming the spokesperson of white supremacy. So now we have brown and black people that are saying the kind of things that most white people will be terrified to say down the pub. It's an episode of Black Mirror, and we are here.
Yeah. Casper started watching Black Mirror last night, the new series, and I was like, my nervous system actually does not have capacity for this one right now. I just wanted to ask you just one more question on Where Are the Men? One of my biggest heartfelt grievances during this time has been, that within the silence of, I'm a therapist and a coach, so this is the field that I work in. I've seen one male practitioner within wellness speak up at this time. One. I've seen more women speak up, not as many as I would like, but I have seen one male practitioner talk to this. What would you say to men at this time?
I think at this time, I would say that the accumulation of wealth, the capitalist aspirational needs that you've been told that you need, watches, cars, six-packs, the beautiful woman, your club winning the league, in the later chapters of your life will amount to nothing if you looked away from a graveyard of children. That's what I would say to them, because it is easy to busy yourself in a capitalist society, especially for men. We're tribal in nature, right? I was just at Waterloo Station the other day, and there was some kind of football match, and there were all these men in their blue and yellow tops, and they're chanting, and I was just looking at them. I was like, not a single fucking one of them has any idea that there are mass graves. One of the stats was Save the Children that people kind of ignore, don't realize, is that the dead is one stat, but there are 20,000 missing children in Gaza. Missing. What the fuck does that mean? So going back to men, I do this a lot. Like when I meet, I have a way to just sit them down and they can't escape. And I articulate very clearly that you need to decide what your value system is. And if you are really comfortable existing as a cog in the wheel of, rampant excess of wealth creation and accumulation of things, and that is you for whatever time you have in this earth, then own it. Own it. Say you don't care and get busy perfecting your golf swing or worrying what school your kids will get into. That's fine, but own it. And I have to have that discussion in this way at this point, because we're at a place where it's I can't gentle parent an adult during a genocide.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear on that one. Yeah. I'm done with supporting people's fragility at this time. Let's put it that way.
No, for an adult man, I'm a little bit more, I'm armed with facts, and then I let them know that, life is fleeting. If you're lucky if you get 70 years these days. So if you're in your 40s, you haven't got that long left. And most people that are wealthy and men that can influence things are in their 40s and 50s. So what the hell are you doing? If the world, and the other thing that I always say to the fathers is that you getting richer is not going to stop your daughter or son living in what's basically going to be a zombie apocalypse. Because you only focus on your accumulation of wealth, you won't be able, your estate won't be able to protect your children from an ecological hellscape. Just know that, at least. So if you are being selfish, just know that you're damn near going to kill your kids. We got to have those conversations.
Mm. It just reminds me of this definition that we have around the word activism. Now I think in 2025, a more appropriate word is humanism. Just seems like everybody needs to partake in this in some kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. Be a bridge builder. I mean, you haven't seen my film yet, have you?
No, I haven't. Do you mean the Shoot the People?
Yes.
Yes. I'm gutted. In the time that it took me to see if Casper was available on that day, all the tickets are gone, Miss Anne.
Yeah, no, we'll figure out a way to get you down to one of the screenings. It's quite a unique film because it's very rare that whilst we're living through such change, that a film at this scale, this is a big film across many countries, is made to be your companion in continuing the journey that you're already on, or helping you begin the journey. It's about my life, but it's about much more than that. And I think many people like you that are already on this journey, it will be just a really important sort of companion piece to make sure that you keep swimming upstream.
Yeah. I know that we're at time already, and I want to be respectful of your time and all the other things that you have on, including half term. Just on that, swimming upstream, I know that so many people at this time have lost a lot over the last many months, whether that be friends, relationships, marriages, relationships with parents, with siblings, with, dear friends, work-related stuff, financial gigs, whatever it is. People have lost stuff over the last 20 years, 20 months in their advocacy.
It feels like 20 years.
It feels like 20 years, doesn't it? Bloody hell. I was wondering what you feel. This is actually a question from Jemima. She wanted me to ask this. She asked, if anything, what do you feel you have gained or welcomed into your life as a result of being in this movement?
Well, there is no pillow as soft as a clear conscience, right? The weight of apathy is unbearable to me. It would have killed me. The crime of silence would have haunted me. It would have been the ghost that walks with me as I leave my front door every day. So I bear the scars of what it means to reshape the world. But the world that's coming is designed by us. We are the change that we want to see. It's very rare to live through a time where you can be part of systemic change across a globe that is eating itself. And you are the medicine to this gaping wound of the planet. That's no joke. And it's something to recognize the importance of. And, at what cost? Well, the only real cost is your humanity. And if you're willing to lose that, then so be it. And as I said, life is fleeting. And if you want to sleepwalk yourself towards oblivion, then that's your choice. But I'm part of this new tribe that has a tool set to build a new house where the fireplace is warm and we hear the laughter of our children and our children's children. That's my choice.
Me too. Miss Anne, thank you so much.
Okay. I feel like a priest. I'm like, what's goodness.
I mean, apparently we have to take on so many roles these days, don't we? So
it's mad. But,
there's 1,000 more questions I'd love to ask you, but, we'll leave it there for today. But thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. I don't do many podcasts, so this is a real pleasure. Thank you very much. And I felt like it would be a safe space, which of course it has been. And you're doing really important work. I also will say that people are worried about losing jobs and work, and people have rent and mortgages and bills and everything. I get that. But I think there's a new circular economy that's going to come. Just hold steady, be vocal, and there will be new brands that are looking for your voice. There will be new wealthy people that are looking to support this new resistance of humans. It just takes a little bit longer than you expect, but believe me, and it's so important, I think, for me to exist in the space of a thriving sort of artist to say, damn, this guy was never once quiet. And he's doing movies, and because then you see that, and so it can happen. It can't just be an abyss of silence, and it's just sort of right-wing voices that are thriving. And it can seem that way, but there is a circular economy that's building that will support you in what you're doing as well. And for people in wellness, and I deal with quite a few of the people in midwifery. And they're just, the stories they've told me is just crazy. I mean, these people are supposed to look after kids, and the Zionist element there that's been blocking, reducing, deplatforming voices for midwives, it's just extraordinary. But they've built their own new community. This is my whole point. They're like, F you, I'm going to find other like-minded people that want to care for all children, right? And they're all these new communities are growing. So the sheer scale of change is happening. It's hard to have a complete bird's eye view and be a critical thinker about, but trust me, change is here, and we must just continue doing it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'll just speak on that quickly. That is that bittersweet element, isn't it? That despite the abhorrent depravity that we have witnessed in our globe over the last 20 months, on a personal, me in my little life element, I've never felt more full in terms of the people that I connect with daily, who give not just one shit, but all shits about everything that's happening in the world. The people that I've connected with, the things that I speak to, it's just a new level of being part of and witnessing the very best of humanity, I feel.
Yeah. You're living life in full fidelity. It's clear. It's in HD now. It's really, really clear. And I think you could sleepwalk through it. I mean, you see it, right? You see it in every aspect. You'll be on the tube or in a lift, and you just see people I'm amazed by them. I'm like, this should be in a museum, how you could be so unaware. It's just extraordinary to me to see that people can be, unawakened, during this time, but there are more there are lots of new faces at the last protest, and I think that there are more and more people that are realizing, okay, I got to go on this journey now. Yeah.
Hopefully the tipping point is coming, if not here.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And God bless Gary Lineker.
Oh. I saw something on someone, I think it was on Mothers for Genocide, put on their story, his first post since leaving the BBC was one of the poems. Oh, was it by Nikita?
That was my post.
Oh, there you go then.
Yeah, it was a collab post where it was Nikita Gill, and she collabed with me. So that was the first thing he shared. We're friends. I love the man. I think he's a very special soul, and his legacy is secure.
Yeah.
Make no mistake.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, the shackles are off, aren't they? Hello, Gary. Welcome.
He's free. Buckle up.
Totally. Buckle up. Oh, thank you so much, Misan. I mean, everything we've spoken to in the episode will obviously be within the show notes. Is there anything else that you would like to bring into the conversation today? Or do you feel complete here?
No, I think pretty good. Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And the film Shoot the People is obviously out in a couple of weeks. You've got a week?
Yeah. We can't even promote it because every bloody ticket's gone. As much as I'd like to. I've got my show coming in July, which will be anyone can come to the gallery. So when I announce that'll be a really special moment for people.
Amazing
to experience the art.
Amazing. Well, at least I can get myself there. The ticket for the last film, like hotcakes. So
I know. I'm going to sort you out there. We'll figure something out. All right.
Thank you so much, Misan.
Cheers.
Huge pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. It's great to have you with me on this journey towards higher love for all. Our time is our greatest commodity and gift, so thanks for investing it in yourself and sharing it with me. Please do take a moment to rate and review the show. all of which enables more people to find me and for me to connect with more great guests each week for both yours and my enjoyment. All links, references and contact information is detailed too within the show notes. And I always love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hit me up on my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan or via my website higher-love.com. Send your takeaways, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share or send on to someone else who would benefit. Until next time, big love.